Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kaylee Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Sarah Abel, who is a funding business strategist. And today we're going to be diving into using funding and grants in your business to make you go faster. I'm so excited to welcome you here, Sarah. Thank you for coming on.
You are welcome, Kaylee. I'm really looking forward to this.
This is the topic that I've been really excited to bring to the podcast since we spoke in a lot more depth in LA on a retreat a couple of months ago. But before we dive into the actual topic, I would love for you to share a little bit more about you and your personal story with our audience and with our listeners.
Okay, so I'm Sarah Abel. I originally was a marketing and sales manager for a big corporation, okay, but decided that I'd had enough one day because I felt that I was working much harder, but not really getting recognised for what I did. Stepped away, bought a salon, would you believe? Okay, I don't know why I did that, but it was like I went into a salon one Monday, so one Saturday, and I was calculating how much money was going in the till, and I thought, I could do this. I could, build a business. That was back in 2001. Did exactly that. Made all the mistakes that most business startups make at the beginning. I won't go into it because it will be here all day. But basically, by about 2008. I'd ended up with something like £75,000 worth of debt behind me, okay, which is a lot of money. Thought I'm never ever going to make lots of money out of salons, because you can make money out of a salon, but you'll never be the lifestyle that I wanted. And the lifestyle I wanted was to be able to step back from a business and have a team that did everything, and me go and enjoy my life, but also be more looking at strategy, where we're going, and do you know what I mean, having the ideas but not actually having to do all the stuff behind it to put it all into place. Because I'm definitely an ADHD person. I have been diagnosed with it, so I know that I'm very much an ideas person. I'd say I'm an innovator, not an implementer. So for me, it was a case of, right, how can I take this business to the next level and not having any money? And that's how I got into funding. So I basically I saw what was happening. I thought, well, how come all these people are getting all this money? How do they get this money? And there was a guy down the road who had a hair salon and a hair training business. And he was training hair apprentices at the time, and he was being paid to do that. And I thought, I just thought it was colleges that got money, or, like what I call schools and places like that. I didn't realise there was also private training providers that could get money. So that then took me on a journey that went from 2018 to our current day to actually really find out how they got that money, and we did exactly that. So at the beginning, I worked with him he told me what I needed to put in place, and then I literally worked for him as such. I would partner with him to deliver particular courses, predominantly on the apprenticeship route. But I also then realised from the other local college that there was other money for like people that were unemployed who wanted to get back into work. And then I began to realise there was all these other funding pots out there, little grants from the councils. And since then, we've drawn down, I think it's just over it's probably more than that now, but last calculations was about £7 million worth of government funding to help people start and grow their business, predominantly in the hair and beauty sector, although we have now stepped out of the hair and beauty sector because it's such a transferable thing. Anyone can do this. And my way of thinking is I think So our mission statement is creating a legacy for creative minds. That's our mission statement. So my vision is to have lots of different people delivering training on our behalf, um, and then in their expertise of what they do, basically. So whatever they train in, but help them do all what I call the compliance bit at the background. So because that's what I think puts most people off. It's not so much the delivering the training, they just don't know how to map that across to funding. Um, and also as well, once you can do that, there's other pots of funding that you can get hold of. So for us, we've had things to we had a high street fund that was to create the outside of our training academy, because TMB Skills Training is our training academy. Um, we're a limited company, that Nail Place Limited, that's who we are, but we trade as TMB Skills Training. And then we've got lots of little businesses off that, like TMB Hair and Beauty Academy, TMB Hair and Beauty, and then we've got TMB Training Provider Solutions. So there's lots of elements of what we do, and then we've got a property company as well. So it's all across the board. That's what we're building out at the moment. So yeah, that's what I do.
It's incredible as well. Absolutely incredible what you've built. I just remember having, like I said, a conversation with you properly in LA, although I already knew what you'd done and had connected with you many times before. But I think it's absolutely amazing what you've built. And the fact that this can support and help so many of us out there is just honestly, it's astonishing. So let's dive in. Let's talk about this in a little bit more detail, because I think there will be a lot of our listeners listening to this podcast going, funding. I don't really know how to go about that. It feels a bit scary. It does to me to an extent. I'm like, oh, what do we do? So why don't we start from the beginning, in the sense of, for someone maybe starting out in business, or maybe even in their first year of business, how can they begin exploring sort of funding options as such?
Well, they can come on my program.
Yeah.
We've called it the roadmap to funding. So basically, that program takes the basic steps. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to simplify it. So R stands for robust foundations. The O stands for opportunities of funding. So giving you all the different funding sources out there, because I think people don't realise just where money comes from. It doesn't necessarily always come from the government. It can come from investments. It can come from venture capitalists. It can come from the Ministry of Defence, the Ministry of Justice. There's just so many different pots out there that people just aren't aware of. And it doesn't always have to be training. It can be, like I said, what the High Street Fund decked the whole front of our training academy up. And then we had another pot of funding that literally converted one of our 2 or 3 of our rooms in our academy as we grew. We recently had a pot of funding, which again was for training, but it was actually for women that wanted. It was a pot of money from the government that they were trying to raise the skills, as in the mathematical skills of a certain criteria of person. So they called it disadvantaged. Now, disadvantage can mean, and please, everybody, don't get upset about this if I mention you, but the way that the government look at it is anybody that it may be more difficult for them to get hold of stuff. So it can be single mums, which, being fair, I think single mums are amazing, but it can be things like that. They'll look at a cohort of people and go, they need more help than maybe this person over there. Okay. And it was, I don't know, disabled. It was all of the different types. And it was about learning how to budget. Okay. Well, we knew as a business that if I put a course out there on how to budget, most people would think, excuse me, do you know what I mean? But a lot of people wanted to get in the hair and beauty sector. So what we did is we created a course which was like a 4-day course that we delivered. One day was maths, just predominantly maths, where we had a level 5 maths teacher that we employed just for that day. And then the other days we taught them hair up, and we on that day we actually taught them how to price their services up for training. So there's things like that. We've also used a lot of money to grow my whole team. So every single person, a lot of people think of the apprenticeship scheme as just being 16 to 18-year-olds. Well, it's not. Okay, it's for anybody. And if you're a limited company and you have two directors on there, okay, you can get access to that money. So we've just launched a multi-channel apprenticeship, which we did with a lady called Jessica Crane in the hair and beauty sector. And we've had just over, I think it's 24 starts with another 15 going on this month, okay, who can get access to £11,000 worth of training to be able to learn how to market their business. So there's all of these pots of money that you could use either for yourself or your clients once you know how to get access to it. But there's also like grants, and there's other places that you can go and deliver to, like the Ministry of Defence, the Ministry of Justice. But a lot of people, or the DWP, they have lots of pots of money out there to help people get into work. So I think if you're definitely a course creator, this is ideal for you. If you're a training business, it's definitely ideal for you. But even if you're not, and you just want to grow your own business, there's all this money out there sitting there. You just need to know how to access and what to do it. And I think what we do, we just simplify it. That's all we do.
That's incredible, because I think there's a lot of limiting beliefs, isn't there, with people, just because I think it's just the unknown for a lot of people. And
Well, I always say, and someone said this to me, and I think it's really true. I think from naught to a million, the main place that you need to be focusing on, definitely found this within my own business, is marketing and sales. Once you've got that down to being automated and you've got a team behind you, that will automatically come in as it is, okay? But that's all you focus on. But, as a business owner, we're trying to do all these different things. We're trying to market and sell our business, but we're also trying to deliver. I think the reason we grew so quick, we grew from 400,000 to 1.2 million in a relatively short time, in about 4 years, which I think is short, basic time, was because we stopped doing those things. We started delegating and growing a team. And I think a lot of people I get a lot of limiting beliefs around employing people is, what if I don't like them and I have to employ them? That's why I'm going to use outside subcontractors. But the actual letting people go is the same, whatever. But I think when people are invested in your business and they're aligned with your values, and I think that when you bring on people, I teach that as being part of it, that you need to have your values in place, and your interview questions need to be around those values when you take people on. Because I always find whenever we have difficulty with any team member, we always go back to the values. Do you think that's committed? So our 4 values: commit to succeed, above and beyond as standard, keeping it real, and passion for learning. So if anybody questions anything within my business, and my team do exactly the same, if I say to them, do they align with that value? If they're not aligning for that value, they're either a can't or a won't. Okay, which one is it? Or are they actually a good fit for our business? And I think when you subcontract out, one of the difficulties you've got to remember is they're already building a business on the side for themselves. So they're not going to be invested in your business. So by employing people long-term wise, your business will grow quicker. And I think with the structure of funding, as in the courses that they have to do as they're part of you, you keep people because they feel as if they're being developed. And I think the two biggest things that people will leave in a business is there's a ceiling on what they can earn, or they don't feel valued. Okay, and probably they're more likely to leave if they don't feel valued. And I think if you're investing in getting them trained up in a particular skill or improving a particular skill, they're more likely to stay with you. And that's how we've grown all our businesses, not just TNB Skills Training, TNB Hair and Beauty Salon, the Training Provider Solutions. They're all businesses that we've grown using those values. And I think for me, as a business owner, it's much easier for my team now to identify if there's even a client. Are we working with this client? Do they align with our values? Because what you'll find is the ones that don't will actually take the majority of your time up. So then they don't become cost effective. And it's being able to say no as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love all of this. And I think it's I say it's fascinating, but I think it's great for our listeners to be able to hear this in terms of, funding and grants, and there's lots of support out there. And obviously I know that you are the go-to person to come to for anything around this, so that people, if people are looking for opportunities and they want to explore this further, then 100%, I know we'll talk about where to connect with you later on in the episode, but please do go and connect with Sarah. Like, she is the queen of this, and she really is incredible. But for our listeners then, so I just want to dive into this a little bit more. So with funding or grants, obviously they can really help entrepreneurs. Our listeners are all female entrepreneurs listening to this podcast at the moment. How can that funding or those grants then really help them invest in things like, and I know we've touched on sort of building teams or even systems, for example, how can that help them?
Well, I think the biggest thing another thing that slows most businesses down is they're trying to use their own money. Okay. And I think there's also a very big thing around, I get a lot of people who are really proud that they've got no debt, okay, in their business. But actually, it's a limiting belief if you haven't, because, like I always say to somebody, if you're going to, I mean, even taking on a coach, like for instance yourself, that is an investment, not a cost. Do you see so if you're going to invest in somebody, if they're somebody that you aspire to or somebody that you relate to, that to me is an investment. And like over the years, I would say I think if I was to calculate exactly how much money I've invested in my business, it's probably near on £400,000 of different stuff to move my business forward. Now, do I regret that? Absolutely not. We've been able to generate over £7 million worth, £7 million plus. Our business now is on a general turnover of 1.2 million a year. Do you know what I mean? And now we're going to the next level, which now we're heading for the 3 million. So it's like, I think, and the only reason we've been able to do that is because we've used outside funds to be able to do that. If we'd used our own money, it would have really slowed down our growth. Now, I'm not saying go and get a big bank loan that you can't afford. I don't mean that at all. What I mean is having a really good business funding strategy in place. So going for the pots of money that are actually going to take you to the next place. So we still have things that we've just been talking about it today. So there's also R&D funding that you can get for developing a product. Now, we might outsource that for somebody else to do for us because it's not going to it's taking too much of our time. But if we go, actually, the amount we're going to get back, is that worth us putting more time and effort into it? I'm quite good, and so is Julie, the other director in the business, is that we're very good at going, actually, no, let's walk away from that. And we've had, we get grants, we're on a register where we get lots of little grants come through and funding and, do you know what I mean, becoming charity and all of this stuff that sometimes we won't go for because it doesn't align with our overall goals. So like this year, our main goal was to grow our apprenticeship contract to a certain level, because we know that funding is pretty safe, because there's always going to be money out there for that. And like I said, try and get away from thinking of apprenticeships as being only 16 to 18-year-olds. The government 95% fund anybody, okay? And to give you an example, one of our mentoring courses that we deliver to middle managers, okay, is £5,000 the government pay us, but it's only £300 to the employer. So do you see what I mean? There's quite a lot of stuff in there that they can use. There's leadership ones. So there's a new operations manager coming out, which is basically teaching you how to grow a business. Do you know what I mean? And again, I don't know the figure for that yet because it hasn't been released, but I can go back on previous ones, which have been about £7,500, and you're probably going to be paying £500 towards that, So most of us invest in mentors or coaches. So if you're a mentor or a coach, you could actually be able to offer that to your clients as one of the things. But not just that, if you are somebody that wants to access that training but can't afford to pay a coach that amount of money, which some people can't at the beginning, why would you not use it? The government put £5.5 billion aside every year for training, and only 20% of small businesses use it. All the big companies, all the big corporations use it. Okay. And I do think it's a mindset thing around this is too complicated. It's red tape, it's government. What if I do something wrong? It's a bit like having the VAT man, isn't it? Or the tax man. Your whole view of those people is the compliance side. And yeah, absolutely, they're very strict and there are certain things that you have to do, but it's like, how much do you want to grow? Do you know, my question would be, do you want to grow slowly or do you want to grow quick? And you've got people like myself and Julie who've spent years finding out all this information. Why would you go and try and do something yourself when you've got someone like us that can
just teach you
yeah,
and help.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you know what I mean? It's like crazy. So I just think for me, it's just about simplifying it and understanding it, and definitely a mindset. I think, again, from naught to a million, a lot of things that hold businesses back is how they think. It's not so much strategy, because a lot of them have massive skills, but because they don't believe that it's for them, that's them. And I believe in the money stories. Do you know what I mean? Because I have my own. I always used to think you had to work hard for money, and I did used to work very hard for money. Now it's not as I work less than what I did. What's it? 10 years ago, but I make more money. So it doesn't really compute, but there is also that journey you have to go. And I think in business, people always think of business being linear, and it's not. It's up and down. So you have to go down to go up, down to go up. And then once you understand that in business, then you're more likely to invest in yourself, whether that be time or money. It's one of the two or both. No business grows without doing that. But if you can use other people's money to grow faster, why would you not do that? And I've done that loads. I mean, at one point I had to go out and get, I think it was 40,000 pounds worth of investment from outside sources, which I did. And I got small pots from 4 or 5 different people to invest in my business. But that made our business go even quicker.
So many opportunities out there, and I think it goes back to my original point, is the unknown, and actually having someone like you who is knowledgeable, who knows exactly what people can do, and ultimately supporting them, like you said, with getting to their results quicker because of training available, because of support, because they're able then to grow their team, and and looking at all the different avenues down there. What for those that are listening that potentially are at a point where they're scaling their business, they say they're already making 6 figures, they're looking to scale to sort of multiple 6 or even 7 figures in the next year.
Yeah.
How can grants and funding support them at that particular level? Are there sort of key things that you
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think growing your team, because there's many different pots of money. So there's like advanced loans, there's the ASF, which is the Adult Skills Fund, there is the apprenticeship funds, all that you can use to grow your teams. Okay. So I mean, at that point, I think when you get 6 figures, the next step is to grow a team. And what most people do is they try and scale too quick without building the systems and processes to be able to accommodate that. Do you know what I mean? So like, that's why I call myself a business funding strategist, because it isn't just about getting funding. It's about what's in your business at the moment. What do you need right now? And then let's work on that first and then go to the next point. Whereas a lot of people just sort of see all this money and they can spend, there's no point going for a grant that's going to take you 3 weeks, which might give you £1,000. Whereas if you were to put your time and effort into this, then that will get you there faster. So I mean, an example, one of my clients we've just had, Julie, helped her with a tender that she was writing. She's a one-man band. This lady was already turning over quite a bit of money, probably about £100,000 a year, and she wanted to take hers to the next level and get a grant so that she could take on some team and etc. and do all of those things. We helped her do that. Do you know what I mean? And it's really nice. I get a lot of satisfaction out of seeing a business grow, whether it grows through funding or that the business owner grows. It's one of the two. And you have to, I think, to become a 7-figure business, you have to become a different person, because I think when you're scaling, which I call the growing phase, which is probably when you've got to about 300, 200, 300,000, and you want to get to the seven figures, like I said earlier on, everything needs to be on marketing, sales, and systems up front, because ultimately, I always think to myself, if I want to take on another person, how much is that going to cost me? That's going to cost me 30,000. So I need to find an additional £35,000 of the sales to take that person on. How am I going to do that? That's ramping up the marketing and sales. But I think what a lot of business owners tend to do is they go and spend time on what I call not the revenue producing things. A revenue producing for me as a training business is an assessor tutor that works in the academy or online, because they're doing the delivery on my behalf, while I can go out and do things like this, talk on podcasts and promote my brand. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, or get on a call with somebody that wants to do that type of, that's where you should be working from, then naught to the million. And then once you get to the million, but in the background you need to be having a team coming through that when you get to the million, they can take that all off your hands. Like you're not, and so many people are really scared to invest in a member of staff, but that's an asset in your business, because once you have a team behind you, it not only can you step back, but that business becomes sellable, because now it's not predominantly, you're not just the business owner. And I watch a lot of what I call business owners that grow have a very well paid job. Okay, and they don't realize that, but they're working, and don't get me wrong, there has to be an element of that for a while. But your whole goal should be to step back and train somebody. And the one role I would say really replace straight away is all your admin. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't be doing any of that admin stuff. Do you know what I mean? Have like what I call the £1 jobs. Do you know what I mean? Write all of those down. There's a really good book that I read that I think everyone should read. I'm just going to have a look on my phone now what it's called, because I can never remember the full names. But I always recommend it to everybody, and it's called The Perfect Week, and it's by Craig Valentine, and he talks about being a seven-figure business. And it was definitely the what changed for me when I realized that I don't have to be in control of everything. In fact, I am really good at being the innovator. I am really good at strategy. I'm not very good at the implementation behind that. So offload those jobs. In my PA, okay, has been one of the best investments I've had this year. Do you know what I mean? To be able to go, right, this is what I want to happen, go and put it into some kind of basis. And then the next one has been my management team, as in bringing them in. I knew that if we were going to, and Julie and I looked in 2019, okay, we are doing what I call, I think in the business we were doing about 8 roles between us, so 4 each. Like mine was marketing, sales, strategy, and I can't remember the other one that was on there. I can't remember off the top of my head. Or delivery probably. So that was one of them. And Julie's was like the compliance, all the quality, and the financial side and everything like that. So we've gradually gone around replacing those roles. We knew that to be able to replace those roles would probably cost us £50,000 per person. So we knew that we had to ramp up the sales at the top end to be able to replace that person. And I think once you put yourself under that pressure, you'll go out and do it. Whereas I think it's very easy to think, actually, I'm comfortable. But actually, you need to get uncomfortable and feel uncomfortable. I mean, and some of the coaches that I've invested in to be able to get me to that point, when I've parted with that money, I mean, the very first coaches we actually employed in the business when we got to the 400,000, we'd had coaches before. But when we stopped investing in coaches, our business slowed down. So that told me that once you're investing in somebody from the outside, because it's like different eyes on your business, do you know what I mean? That will go, actually, why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? And you sometimes need those people to be able to do that. It was 56k. We did not have the money. And I remember Julie and I drove up to, I think it was St Albans, around that area, because they were both there. And it was just coming out of COVID. We were sort of sitting there thinking, oh, this is a big lot of money. I think it was something like £3,500–4,000 a month coming out of our bottom line. But best investment I've ever made. Do you know what I mean? It literally the processes and the systems that they taught us and the belief in us literally, like we already knew all this stuff, but we would just not, we built a team at that point of people that were like, what do I do next? What do I do next? And what you actually need is a team that will go, I suggest we do this and I'm going to do it. Do you know what I mean? And then, and I think as business owners, sometimes what we can tend to do is we're so scared that they're going to make mistakes, but they have to make their mistakes to learn, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's letting go of that control, basically. Yeah.
And it's hard to do, isn't it? I think, I remember having a conversation with you in LA about this, but I've always been a perfectionist and a bit of a control freak.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's so hard though, isn't it? It's so hard to let go of things and just to sort of delegate and give them the opportunity, give them that opportunity
Yeah,
to,
the autonomy of actually making the mistakes. I mean, and it will cost you sometimes. Do you know what I mean? But it's when it does cost you, it's not like if you're a reactive. I'm a red, so anyone, and on disc. If anyone knows about disc, I'm a DI. Do you know what I mean? I'm more a D than I am an I. So when I know that if somebody's upset something in the business, it's going to cost the business money. That hurts.
yeah,
Because it's going to have to come from somewhere.
of
But I
course.
have learned to step back and give myself 24, 48 hours before I react to it, because you'll react in an emotional way rather than as, okay, and look at it more as a lesson learned. I think we talk about failures and we talk about wins, and actually, you learn more from what I call fails than you do wins, and rather maybe reframe it into lessons rather than fails. So everyone has lots of lessons you've got to learn, and everyone has leaks in their business. And that's how I see it. Whenever things go wrong, there's obviously a little leak over here we need to sort out. Okay. So next time that doesn't happen. So this is the leak that we need to sort out. And as you grow, there'll be other issues because you'll bring in people like who will be employed by you who may be perfectionists, who they find it very difficult to let go of the jobs, as a middle management. So what I love about the funding side of it is there's a proven system there. Do you know what I mean? It teaches them all parts of that role, and you can use that system to literally have the same person have exactly the same delivery. So there is a process that you don't have to physically write. It's already there for you. So I think that's some of the advantage. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if some of our listeners then are thinking, right, okay, this sounds incredible. And I know that, I want to absolutely grow a team or look at, opportunities of how they can scale their business.
Yeah.
What would you say then are the first steps in terms of exploring funding and grants? Is there like obviously to come and speak to you, but is
Yeah.
there like
I
where do
think
we
it's
start?
going to find out the opportunities of funding of what there is out there. Do you know what I mean? It's really have a look. I think you need to have a very clear business plan of where your business is going, and set out that business plan for 12 months. I think that I'm saying by Tom Robinson, where he says something like you overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 10 years, is such a true statement, because people think things are going to go really quick, but I believe that you have to go on some kind of journey yourself to grow as a person. As you grow a big business, the problems don't go away; they just get much bigger. The difference is how you react to them, how your mindset grows. So I think first of all, I think you need to be very honest with where you're at the moment and look at what is your vision for your business? Is it to take it to seven figures? Is it just to have a small business that eventually you'll walk away from? Because a business is not sellable unless it's got a team in it for a start. I don't believe. Okay, no one's going to buy that business for a lot of money. You need to have lots of assets in it, which is one of the great things about funding. I mean, we've just had ours valued at 6 times the net worth
Wow.
compared to twice, because of all the assets that we've got. Because what an investor is going to look at, whether they are the government, whether they are grants, whether they are an outside investor, they're going to look at what assets you have within that business that are sellable, just in case the business goes back. Because people buy businesses for different reasons. It's not always about turnover; it's what they've got, contracts, etc. So I think the first thing is to really know what you're heading for, what income do you want, and having a very clear goal to where you're going, and then going, okay, so what do I need to do to be able to get that? And that probably is investing in somebody to help them, take them through those steps. Definitely a mentor or a coach of some sort, whether that's me or somebody from the outside. You definitely need to be doing that. And that's not me about selling what we do. I think it's important. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
You need to know what you're doing, and predominantly someone that's already gone through that process, because mentoring and coach are two different things. Do you know what I mean? Do you need to work on your mindset first of all? Do you know what I mean? Is there a limiting belief? If it's a limiting belief, go and find a money coach that will get you to the next stage. Do you know what I mean? Once you found the money coach that says you can do whatever you like, and that's what I had to do. Do you know what I mean? I had massive limiting beliefs from my grandparents and my childhood, because my childhood was pretty, like, I went into care when I was 14 with my nan and granddad, because both my parents died when I was very young. So I had a lot of limiting beliefs around myself, a lot of needing validation, which sometimes still raises its ugly head every now and again. It's a lot better than wherever it was, but I always think you've got like a backpack, haven't you, where you've had stuff put into your backpack, and it will
Yeah.
stop you at different stages. But I think it's really recognizing, what do you actually physically need help with at this point? Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is it, I mean, I believe that most businesses need marketing and sales at the beginning. That's all you need, because once you've got that sales coming in, you can then create everything else. Are you wasting time on things that aren't revenue producing? Do you know what I mean? Like, I always think to myself, an admin person is revenue producing because it takes you out of those jobs. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to be in the upfront jobs where you're making money. You don't want to be like, making it all pretty on a Canva, or do you know what I mean? You need somebody else to do that. And so look at who is the first person you want to employ. And you can
Yeah.
do that very cheaply at the beginning for an apprenticeship scheme, because ultimately you can take on an apprentice who wants to train in a certain skill and they haven't got it, for much less than what you would have to turn, and then reward them as they get to certain pays in your business. You can make them revenue producing very quickly. And I think that's a skill of mine, is that I want everyone to be revenue producing, whether they're an admin person or whether they're a trainer. I want them to be making that more money, because if I've got 10 trainers, we can deliver a lot more training. So
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at the bigger picture, basically, aren't you? And like you said, replacing, if we're looking at tasks, and
Yeah.
like you were talking about earlier, like the £1 jobs and things, but looking at the tasks that you don't ultimately need to do, that's not going to actually, they're not money generating.
Absolutely.
Doing
No.
the business,
And if
sorry.
you read that book, it's a really good book, and it really simplifies everything, and it talks about how, I know that my best ideas come to me when I'm on holiday, when I go to the spa. Julie and I will have a regular spa day where we'll go and we'll just chill out. And I mean, my team, it's a bit of a standing joke when I go on holiday. They dread it because I know they're going to come back with some kind of idea. Do you know what I mean? Of what I want to do. But that's what I'm saying. I can be pondering on a problem when I'm in the thick of it and never come up with it. I can walk away for 2 weeks on a holiday and it will come to my head. It's part of the reason I've always invested in retreats, with like when we were there, because it ticks two of my boxes. I love talking about business and I love traveling. So that you begin to relax, you're around other business owners who may have ideas that you haven't. And I find when you're in a room of other entrepreneurs, you learn more than what you would learn on your own. It's why even with our programs we have a lot of community stuff, because the accountability. It's having, and a coach gives you that. They give you the accountability, as in, like, and they actually, get what the stories that you tell yourself, they will challenge you on those, and say, like, actually that's just, I won't swear, but BS. Do you know what I mean? That's like your own stuff you need to get out of your head. And I think once you're challenged on things like that, you're more likely to work on it. I know I am, so I can only go through my experience. When someone says, is that true, Sarah? And then I really question myself and go, no, that's because I'm being triggered by something, because we all get triggered. If you live any
Absolutely.
kind of life, you've been triggered by something. And I think it's understanding that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. Sarah, do you know what? This has been incredible. And I think I know how much our listeners will really value this, and they're probably listening to this thinking, oh my goodness, there seems to be so many opportunities in terms of funding. So where can our listeners connect with you, have a chat with you, and find out more about what you do?
So I'm on Instagram. So I've got 3 Instagram accounts because they're all different. Okay. So there's the business Instagram, which is at T&B Skills Training so T for Tommy, N for Neddy, B for Bravo, and Skills Training. There's also Sarah Abel, Funding Godmother. Okay. And there's, if you're in the hair and beauty sector, there's also Sarah Hair and Beauty. I do very often post the same stuff on each one of those accounts. So there's links in there that you can go on to. And I'm also on Facebook as Sarah Abel as well. So you can follow me on Facebook. They're the 2 places. Okay.
Amazing. All of Sarah's links and of course her bio are in the show notes. So please do go and connect with her, go and say hello. And just for some clarity in regards to probably one of the best programs or one of the best things that people can come into and learn more from you in regards to funding. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, okay. So it is the Roadmap to Funding. That's probably the best program, that is a paid for course. I think it's 997 for the VIP, but it's £300 for the small one, which is just the road. So it depends where you are in your business, and I'll be really honest with you, depending on where you are, what you need at different stages. So the road stands for Robust Foundation. So that covers things like what you need, like your mission, vision, and your clear values, and your financial health. Because that's what most people struggle with, is not knowing their numbers. So that's there. Then you've got the O, which is opportunities of funding, and that tells you where to register, all the places that you can go to, all the different funding streams that are available to you, how you can register for them, and then also fit in with your model. The A is about assets. So that's everything you can put into your business that will attract funders, okay, that they're more likely to fund with you. And then last but not least is the D, which is about building your dream team, okay. And for the VIP program, there's some additional ones on there, which is monetize, amplify, and processes and procedures. So depending on where you're at, okay, you can go into that, and that would probably be the first place. I do have, if you click on the Roadmap to Funding link, which I think Martina's shared with you, which is my PA, there is in there that you can go into. You can literally click onto that link, and there's a free challenge that I ran. So there's like 3 things that you can run on that, which will actually talk about actually pitching. So it'll teach you how to pitch to funders. So that'll give you a head start. Do you know what I mean? And that's quite a good one to go. Once you click onto the roadmap, you can watch that. I think it's about an hour and a half of content in there with some really great extra checklists in there that you can get as well. So yeah, I'll definitely do that. If you want to know whether this is for you or not, and then actually whether it is the right thing. We had, I think, 40 people on the challenge, which was amazing. I'm so chuffed with that.
Yeah.
And I think it created quite a lot of value for people before they actually decided to come to the program. Not everyone joined up, but that probably wasn't the right time for them or whatever, but it's there and it's free. So why would you not look at it, basically?
Absolutely. So all of the links and ways to contact Sarah are in the show notes for everyone listening. Sarah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on and giving such value in regards to funding and grants, and just allowing our listeners to really find out ultimately how they can start their process and the next steps of that.
Thank you, Kaylee. I've loved doing it too. Thank you.
And thanks to everyone for joining us for today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and I will see you all again next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast with me, your host, Kaylee Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream 6-figure or multi-6-figure business, then head to our website now for more information, or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.